Why do you think it's going to take another 10 years before we see them really in our operating rooms at 90% or more?
Right. There's two things. One is availability, manufacturers making them. There's only one European company manufacturing prefilled syringes at the moment, and there's a few elsewhere. And the other thing is anaesthetists, knowing that it's technically possible. A lot of people think it isn't technically possible, and there'll be problems with the plastic and the drugs, and that's been shown not to be the case, and that's one of the reasons I like to promote it. And they have to demand them, really, I think, and it's a chicken and egg thing, really. You can't really expect companies to go and invest a lot of money in this. In fact, I think BD did this in the States and found that the market wasn't taking off as quick as they thought. So it's a two-way situation. It's getting us to demand them and the companies to be able to make them available.
It seems it's going to take another 10 years before we have prefilled syringes, so we will have to label our syringes for another 10 years.
Yes.
DCI just passed by here in the hospital, and they emphasized very much on putting a date on the label.
Yeah.
I didn't mention that in your labeling.
No. If I go on a couple of slides, let me see if I can go on a couple of slides. These correct syringe labelling, it is key. You made a key point. And if you look at labelling regulations, you're really supposed to put a whole lot of stuff on. Expiry dates, and who's filled it in, and all this sort of thing. And really, nobody will ever do that manually. You're quite right. And the only way to get 100% compliance with labelling regulations is pre-filled. And that's what happens in the United States, I think. One of the big drivers there. The Joint Commission say all this should happen. They come into a hospital, and the managers actually have a choice. They can either say, well, somebody went round the operating theatre last week and 96% were labelled, and someone went round in January and 97% were labelled. Or they say, we buy all our syringes pre-filled, and the Joint Commission tick the box and move on to something else. So it's a key thing is labelling.
We will be waiting for 15 years for the prefilled syringes. In the meantime, you have to label syringes with a color for the international color, which is a good thing. What surprises me is that companies that produce paralyzing agents, opioids, whatever, they color their vials with all sorts of colors. Yeah. Wouldn't it be interesting to make them use the same international color code on their vials in the meantime? Because the optimists will say it will take 10 years, but people with a much more pessimistic view will say it maybe take 15 years.
Yeah.
Why aren't they obliged to do so?
Well, that's a great point, and you're very correct. And we've spoken to a number of the generic manufacturers in the UK, and some of them, one called Hamlin, has started to do this. But you're quite right; they aren't all doing it. And we've got a lot of industry people here. There's a feeling about in commercial. I'm not in business, but there's a feeling about branding. And people like to put their company brand on things and use their company colours, and they think that I decide to buy my atracurium from somebody because it's a particular brand or not. And in fact, branding, I think, doesn't influence us a lot in pharmaceutical choice in hospitals, and they should all go for the standard colours. And it's up to us. I mean, I say the National Health Service, if they just said we're only buying ampules that have the ISO colours on, then everyone would have to do it. But persuading these people is difficult. But it's a great point.
Once upon a time, we had drugs like curare. Once upon a time, we had drugs like curare replacing drugs like pancuronium. I'm sorry, the other way around. Pancuronium replacing curare. We had two different concentrations of pancuronium, and at least in my institution, demanded that we only had them in equipotent concentrations. So if there were a drug error of drugs labeled with the same color, the impact would be minimized. Any chance we should be demanding equipotent doses of opioids and other drugs?
It's a great point, and I fully support. Standardization is key to all these sort of things, and reliability. It's a great point.
The cost analysis, shouldn't it take the shelf life of the ampules versus the shelf life of the prefilled syringes, assuming there's a different shelf life?
Yeah, I agree. I'm not an economics expert, and the one from France has looked at quite a lot of these things, but a better an economic analysis we get, and I think the more detailed, the better the case for prefilled syringes, because lots of hidden costs that we aren't including at the moment, and that's one of them.
And then the other question is, at the University of Florida, we're doing team training in the OR to do what's called the 5 rights: the right dose, the right drug, the right concentration, and the right route.
Yeah.
How does prefilled syringe, would that affect the teaching we're doing? Because I think that gets rid of the right drug, right dose, and right concentration, right? So then it's 2 rights.
Yeah. Yeah, it helps a lot, but you also have to make sure you get the right prefilled syringe. So you just have to keep yourself a little bit aware of that. Yeah, right route is another discussion which could take a meeting all day because of all the changing the connectors now, so you can't mix drugs out.
Yeah, I think what I want to get across is, although it's good, it's only one. It's a technology aspect. There's a team training with your simulation that can also increase safety.
Yeah, human factors 70%. Yeah.